Uh, oh, yeah. Oh no. Oh, get crunk with your meat, clown. Okay. All right. I'm gonna stop with that. I think I was just fucking around with something last night. I'm gonna turn off the chroma key. Okay. What is going on with this fucking camera? I need to. Why is it cropped? There we go. A little better. A little bit better. Not too much better, actually. I do want to keep that zoom just a bit so I can. Hell yeah, shitty webcam quality. Okay. Hi. Welcome to the stream. So this is a little different for what I'm usually doing. I'm usually not doing live face cam stuff, mainly because I don't like it. But I felt like it would be awkward to not have a face cam to discuss what I want to discuss, because there's no real way to do this over a stream. So, Pikmin 3 Deluxe was announced today, and it's got me hyped. I'm, feeling some secondhand hype for Arlo. But it says a lot about where Nintendo's going this year. And I don't know if it's good or bad, but it's definitely not what people are hoping for. So Pikmin 3 Deluxe, that's a big part of the reason I actually have these ideas solidified. I have some of them written down. And the big questions that I got to talk about here are, where's the Switch Pro and where Pikmin 3 fits into that now? So, and not just Pikmin 3, it's a bunch of other fucking games too. So, the first question you gotta ask is, why hasn't Nintendo been saying, anything at all? Why have they been so radio silent on everything that they're doing? And if they're not showing anything at all, was what they had to show this year meant for a Switch upgrade? If meant for a Switch upgrade, what would it be? Would it be Breath of the Wild 2? The, was it originally supposed to be Shin Megami Tensei 3 and 5? Maybe 5 is maybe 5 is going to be a Switch Pro title because it's coming out in 2021. Was the Mario Collection originally going to be a Switch Pro title? Are they waiting on a more powerful system to do more Nintendo Switch Online classics like N64 or GameCube? And the big one people have been talking about is that Doom Eternal was very likely, when it was delayed, to be a Switch Pro launch title. Because it seemed like, Doom Eternal especially, seemed like at first they were very confident that this game could run, this game could run on Switch with, at least as few issues as Doom had, Doom 2016. But now it seems like that's not exactly the case. Now it seems like there's more going into this port than we originally thought. And if they've been working on it for Switch since launch, or since the beginning of development, really, over almost a year now. Come on. So there's that, and but the other question people have to ask now is, were most games only delayed by COVID? Because now Pikmin 3 is a holiday title. This is October 30th. This is their holiday thing. It falls squarely into the Luigi's Mansion 3 time slot, but it feels much more like the only thing they have for the holidays, which is a port of a Wii U game that wasn't even that popular to begin with. So where's the rest of it, you know? Sure, that's 2 months away, so in 2 months, when you know, we're 2 months away from December, we might get a big announcement for Breath of the Wild 2 or a Metroid Prime 4 trilogy, or sorry, a Metroid Prime trilogy or anything like that. And Metroid Prime, I didn't even write down, oh god, the Metroid Prime is a big part of this, but yeah. That would be a big game that they would want on the Switch Pro, but I'm getting ahead of myself. So I have this other talking point down that I wrote down last night, talking about how if they're just delaying directs because of their shitty systems, what does that imply? I actually have to amend that and say that now I think directs are just going away. I think they saw the, you know, backlash to the SMT3 and Partner Showcase Direct, and they saw the backlash to the other directs, and they're going, what the fuck are we still doing these directs for if they're not creating any hype for our games, and people will just make hype anyways? Like, we don't have to hype people up for our fucking products. Why would we ever do that, right? So now they're putting out, like, Paper Mario and the Origami King and Pikmin 3, and they're just sort of launching them. I think Nintendo's realizing they don't really... Maybe this is just a COVID thing. Maybe it's just like they don't have the resources. Maybe their fucking, you know, video editor got COVID. I don't know. But maybe they don't have the resources to put in more money into directs to put everything, you know, make all the trailers happen at the same time. Maybe there's, you know, maybe studios aren't ready to make trailers for games. So they can't do directs. They have to do one-off stuff, but that doesn't seem super likely to me, because if they had more to show, which it's obvious that they have more to show for this year, they would put it out there. The other problem that, like, COVID implies for Nintendo, it implies that their systems are old and crusty, which we've been seeing that with the leaks. The Giga Leaks have been a major issue for Nintendo, where they're just, shut up. Shut up. The Giga Leaks have been a major issue for Nintendo, and that's been outing their systems as very terrible, especially during COVID. Now, I don't know if it's just them transitioning into a more modern, more, you know, worker-friendly environment, but whatever's going on over there at Nintendo has been letting leakers take tons of advantage of this. It's been a nightmare for Nintendo. And that's, you know, it doesn't bode well for, you know, there's two other companies going into the new generation, and then there's Nintendo, who's floundering with no games, and their company's fucking exploding. So. But I do have to point out, and I'm just going to leave this, I'm not going to talk too much about this because I don't have any information, I'm not a journalist, but Nintendo has been well known and highly regarded as one of the few companies out there to treat their workers well. And if they're having problems through COVID that no other company is, you know, no other companies like EA, Ubisoft, fucking Microsoft, Activision. Now, I'm more worried about what those other companies are doing compared to Nintendo. I'm not super worried about what Nintendo's actually doing. I'm more worried about, like, hey, is EA mistreating their workers? Are they forcing people to work through COVID? Are they, you know, still putting people to, are they still getting people to try, you know, come in and, because there have been a couple reports so far of QA testers who have had issues where they have to come into work anyways, and, you know, there's no safety regulations. And these are just QA testers. Developers probably, you know, have, companies have been saying that developers have had much more kind treatment, which I don't believe. But I do want to see what happens after COVID. A couple years down the, this is like years down the line, this will happen, I bet. But I'm putting my, stake in the ground here and saying that, yes, I believe there are tons of companies that are abusing their workers by forcing them to come in, or at least coercing them to come into work, come into the office, and Nintendo isn't. So that's why that could be a reason they're having so much more trouble compared to other companies. So there's that. Anyways, the next big thing we got to talk about is what can we infer from delays in previous information regarding the Switch Pro, Direct, release rumors, and the industry at large. So there are options Nintendo would have had last year, and even this year had COVID not shown up. So a year ago, a Switch Pro/Pro Dock would have been a relatively safe bet, like a Pro upgrade of some kind. It would have given people more consumer choice. It would have been a good counterpart to the Switch Lite. It would have pushed Nintendo to release bigger, better games sooner. Games like Xenoblade and Pikmin could look a lot better. Devs could take far more advantage of the horsepower. Doom Eternal probably would have come out on time. That sort of thing. But instead, we got a very different lineup of games. We got a very different situation where Nintendo gave us nothing. Well, it's not true. They gave us the Switch Lite. When the Switch Pro was rumored to come out, there was also heavy rumors of a Switch Lite. And it's very possible that Nintendo looked at the Switch Pro that they had, or the Pro upgrade of whatever kind they had, and they said, this isn't good enough. And they were going to try and ride out the rest of this generation, and wait until next year, when Sony and Microsoft are done duking it out, more or less, over, market share in the console space, and where they would start talking about their own thing. The other part of this is, it's kind of interesting the games that have been showing up on Switch ever since the Switch Lite launched. And here's just a pattern that I've been noticing. So the launch title for the Switch Lite was Link's Awakening, a port of a remake of a Game Boy game. The next big game for the Switch Lite was Luigi's Mansion 3, which took more after Luigi's Mansion 2 on the 3DS, not to mention the Luigi's Mansion port to the 3DS. Then Pokemon Sword came out. Pokemon, a traditionally handheld title, which, it wasn't that much different from a handheld title to begin with. Animal Crossing, very casual game. Pokemon Mystery Dungeon DX, a port of a Game Boy game again. Ring Fit, another casual game. Paper Mario, sure, it was a Wii U title. Sure, it's mainly been a console title, but it's this style of Paper Mario started on the 3DS. Clubhouse Games, obvious casual. New Pokemon Snap, another Pokemon game. New Soup did start on the DS, remember. Mario Maker. Mario Maker has a 3DS version. Yoshi's Crafted World, Yoshi's Woolly World, and I think Yoshi's New Island, as well as there's Yoshi's Island DS. So Yoshi's Island has been so far, majority handheld series. And even Xenoblade Definitive Edition and Dragon Quest XI those games both appeared on the 3DS in some form. So the Switch is in a unique position as a console handheld hybrid. So this means it can be a platform. Oh god, I'm not feeling great. This means it can be a platform to chuck out lower budget games, possibly handheld titles or remakes. And it could also easily be supported as a secondary device to the next-gen system. So regular Switches could leave production while the Switch Lite goes down in price and starts, being thrown more mobile titles, being thrown more budget titles. Possibly a few games that would be on the quote-unquote Switch Pro model, and then the Switch Pro would be Nintendo's big new thing, where Doom Eternal would show up, and Metroid Prime 4, and Zelda Botwa 2. Botwa, why did I say that? So far, or sorry, so it could be far more effective at selling a pro model or a next generation system than its contemporaries. So let's say they wait the year, and so let's also look at like the options they had in terms of hardware they had. So what would be better for Nintendo? What would it do for them to rush into the next generation with a PS4 adjacent system that can barely run Fallout 76, while other systems are pushing never-before-seen tech rather than, you know... So, like, the other systems are pushing never-before-seen tech and, you know, super-fast SSDs and eliminating loading times and making experiences you could never see anywhere else. Other than PC. So what would be better? Nintendo decides, all right, let's rush into this generation. Let's throw out a system that's only as powerful as the last generation, like they did with the Wii U, and again the Switch. And then have games underperform, possibly not get enough ports to the system because of the just technological differences between current architecture and like the PS5 and Series X, like the Navi architecture, like the way that ray tracing works. Because developers would have to completely rewrite their shading engines and their lighting engines and the such in order to get it on Switch. It wouldn't just be a simple matter of scaling stuff back. It would be a complete rewrite if they launched the system without ray tracing capabilities whatsoever. As well as a system without an NVMe SSD. So, if they were to wait a year and work with NVIDIA more, and possibly even Intel, or develop their own chipset, where it's, you know, affordable enough and powerful enough, Nintendo could position themselves as they did with the Switch, as the secondary system to the Switch, or sorry, to the PS5 and the Series X, you know? And a system that, you know, could be a secondary system, but could also be your main system if you really wanted it to be. Because as it stands now, the Switch, you can't make that your main system. No one can make that their main system. No one can. What, you're gonna fucking play Assassin's Creed Valhalla on the Switch? You're gonna play Starfield on the Switch? You can't even play the Outer Worlds on Switch. Come on. Like, no. It's just not gonna happen. And Nintendo knows that. And positioning themselves as the portable right now, throwing less money at big games to come out this year, or rather just budgeting themselves properly for a new device launch, and budgeting their time properly, it's probably going to be a lot more effective. I could see people wanting to buy a new generation Switch that's backwards compatible with the old one, and see a few more, you know, a few more games coming out for the old system, like they did with the 3DS. Like, we have precedent too. The 3DS was a very capable system that had games on it that weren't coming to the main Switch. The Luigi's Mansion port wasn't coming to the main Switch. The Mario and Luigi remakes weren't coming to the main Switch, you know? So these are the things that I've just been noticing about Nintendo, and I've been noticing a pattern, and I've been trying to, you know, squeeze together their thought process. And their thought process, as far as I can see it, is wait, be patient, wait for the right opportunity here. And NVIDIA, like, there's been patents showing up of NVIDIA working on some sort of mobile architecture. There's been, not patents, there's been job listings at NVIDIA saying they want people to work on mobile architecture. There's been just a bunch of random stuff showing up here and there over the months that's been like, oh, okay, so Nintendo is working on something. They're just waiting to show it. And I mean, I think that's just kind of the thesis of this whole year for Nintendo, is we have stuff, you just have to wait and see. Because COVID. And I mean, that's the other big part about what was going on with the Switch Pro. They probably delayed it because they had to. They probably looked at what Sony and Microsoft are doing with their systems, and it's like, we can't manage that right now. We can't keep a fucking company together. We're getting leaks. We're getting hacked. We can't manage a fucking console launch. We can't manage, like, doing artificial, rarity? Inflation? Not inflation. What the fuck's the word? Like, artificially... What's the fucking word? I don't know. Just, like, you know, selling less... We can't just, like, sell less systems. We have to worry about, like... Yeah, no. This is, we have to get the system into people's hands. Anyways, yeah, that's mostly what I have to say about that. I felt like throwing my 2 cents in. I felt like being a bit of a bitch, being kind of a dick, and throwing my face up. And, you know, I'm gonna show you a meat clown, so you don't have to feel cheated. Oh, meat. Only $4.49. Meat nuggets. Oh. I'm gonna fucking get crunk. Where's the interact button? Where's the interact button? Oh, wrong source. Meat. Meat. How'd they get him so cheap? Long Lennon. Okay, that's enough webcam shenanigans. Okay, I'm done with that. All right. Okay.